If government can't keep their citizens safe, then nothing else matters. Now, last year, we reduced gun violence, bringing shootings down by a third all across the state. Murders are down 21% in New York City, 38% upstate. We made key revisions to bail reform to make New York safer. We enacted gun control legislation that's a model for the rest of the nation. But certain types of crime have been stubbornly high. So today we're unveiling a series of crime-fighting tactics alongside an era-defining mental health initiative.
Today, Governor Kathy Hochul unveiled her priority proposals in the 2024 State of the State, addressing the issues she once included in the executive budget. That includes how she plans to combat crime, boost the economy, and the state's healthcare workforce, expand literacy for children, and grow support for families, especially those in need. Today's address is, of course, just the beginning, kicking off the budget season in New York. Now the real work begins, trying to get legislators to buy in.
To talk more about this, right now we're joined by political analyst Jack O'Donnell. Jack, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
So generally speaking, this was Hochul's second State of the State address. How do you think she fared this afternoon?
I thought Governor Hochul delivered a serious, mature State of the State. She hit a lot of important issues. You know, you mentioned we just saw that clip on crime. She talked about economic development. She talked about a lot about healthcare and mental health. It was a very good starting off point for the legislative session. Good job by Governor Hochul.
Not many controversial items in here, and there generally are not, although Governor Cuomo, her predecessor, would sometimes spark controversy in his budget priorities. But things like, improving maternal and infant health, expanding recreational opportunities, all these kinds of things, improving crime, these all seem to be something that legislators on both sides of the aisle could easily accept, something that people can agree with.
Absolutely. She set out a lot of things that I think Democrats and Republicans, but certainly Democrats in the state legislature are going to support, especially around gun safety, around domestic violence, around mental health. Certainly, she's putting herself in a position to get some stuff done. Remember last year, especially on bail reform and then also on housing, she did really challenge the legislature, and she had some wins on the bail reform, but you heard her chiding the state legislature a little about the housing today, but she's approaching it very differently.
You mentioned those aspects of crime, and yes, that bail reform was a big topic last year. It wasn't the same this year, but what she did focus on in some of those aspects, retail theft, things like those, groups of people ransacking stores that we see video of all the time on social media out of New York City, places like that. That kind of issue, do you see Democrats getting behind? And by Democrats, I specifically mean people like Hasty, people like Andrea Stewart-Cousins. Do you see them getting behind strengthening New York's ability to enforce its criminal laws?
Well, the devil is in the details here, right? I mean, especially on the retail crime. The governor just a couple weeks ago vetoed a piece of legislation that passed both houses, right, that had support from Speaker Hasty, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, a majority in both houses, because of the details and who's paying for it and who picks the people who are on that task force. So that's where a lot of this comes down to. She had said no to a particular proposal. We'll see the details of her proposal next week, specifically in the budget. But I think there's a consensus around something needs to be done.
Because you talked about the legislature, what does her relationship look like with the legislature right now? What will these next few months look like in Albany?
Well, I think you saw today the governor reaching out with an olive branch to the legislature. She talked a lot about things that she had gotten done and gave the legislature credit for a number of those initiatives as well, or at least partial credit. She talked about working together to move forward. This is coming off of part of the year where the governor did, I mentioned the retail task force, there were some big issues, a ban on non-compete agreements, something called the Grieving Families Act. But there were just a number of vetoes between the governor and legislative priorities. So I think there is some ill will there. I think a lot of this is going to get contentious in how we pay for it, because the state is facing over a $4 billion deficit, which means some things are either going to get cut or the state's going to have to raise taxes. And you heard the governor again today trying to be very clear that she doesn't intend to raise taxes, that we can't be paying for stuff that we can't afford. So I do think that this is going to be a contentious session between the governor and the legislature, even if there are a number of easy wins.
Jack, I'm glad you mentioned that $4 billion budget gap, because right now there's no plan on how to fill it. And then you add that to something that I also found curious about it being absent, just really in general, was the immigration issue. The illegal immigrants who are in New York City, who are choking that city quite literally of its resources. And yet that is not addressed in her State of the State, or at least as a priority for her. Do you see that as a political issue? In other words, is that the relationship between the governor and Eric Adams? Or is that an issue where, hey, that's your fight, that's not Albany's fight?
Well, I think it's going to have to be Albany's fight. You know, the last estimate from the state is that it's cost the state $2 billion this year, even where New York City is talking around $10 billion or numbers up there. And the problem is getting worse. Obviously, there's more folks coming every day. And so how to house, clothe, and feed those folks and what to do is an incredible political problem. I see it more as an almost intractable problem. It's not just the relationship between the mayor of New York City and the governor. It's also the relationship between the governor and the president of the United States. A lot of folks here have really called on the federal government to take some action, or at the very least to help pay this cost. And so far, President Biden and Democrats in Washington have not bought into that.
Jack, going back to what you said before about expecting things to kind of be contentious this year, do you expect anything that came from today to kind of affect the election picture at all?
Well, I think that's the underlying issue here, right? I mean, we saw how congressional elections in New York State determined who the Speaker of the House was, or the last Speaker of the House was. You know, obviously there's some redistricting first before we get down to those elections. But I think one of the things that's coming out from Albany is to do no harm and not push issues that are going to hurt Democrats running for Congress and trying to take control there.
Jack, we have many, many more questions, but because of our time constraints, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much for your analysis on this. This is something, of course, that we're going to be digging into and hearing from Jack multiple times, because this is a pretty weighty document. Jack O'Donnell, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.